channel last week, and we were having a good conversation. He's like, all right, that's the 1 hour mark. We're done. I'm like, okay, fair. Like, it's your show. I'm just here to hang out. But it was like, we could have gone further. I have no time limits, but we'll see. Maybe he was also just like, let's get this guy off the channel. He swears too much.
I don't think so. Gideon's good people. Oh,
I like Gideon. I didn't mean it like that. It's just saying. So, what have you been watching recently?
You know what? I don't watch a whole lot anymore.
Fantastic. Glad you were on the show.
It's been a great time. Thanks for having me.
All right, and let's just go back to Dan Solo. Wonderful first episode. First guest didn't show up. Second guest.
I'll tell you what. That's not untrue. I just don't have time anymore to watch a whole lot, and I usually would watch things with my wife, and she's just like so overworked nowadays that whenever we do have time to like sit down and watch something, she wants something, brainless, something, just to fill the void so she can unwind her brain a little bit.
Sure.
That said, we did finally just finish The Last of Us.
Nice.
Season 1.
Good.
That was nice.
Did you play the video game at all?
No, I have not played the video game.
Okay.
My only into The Last of Us was I was on set as a background actor.
Nice.
When they were filming it in Alberta.
Can you see yourself at any time?
There is a fraction of a second that you can... I know it's me because I was there, and I can point my blurry little body out. But no respectable human being would know it was me.
That's cool. I might need a screenshot of that at some point.
Yeah, I could probably find it and send it to you. But to me, it was like, I don't have a lot of experience on camera. I'm a theater trained actor.
Okay.
So I was like just trying to do some background stuff to just like get on sets and see what it's like, right? So it was kind of fun to just experience that and see how the magic is made,
Yeah. Now, you say you don't have a lot of experience on camera. Obviously, you are on camera at least twice a week for many hours. Very different beast. I get that. But
yeah, exactly.
So when you say you're okay, this conversation's gone in a different direction, but now I'm intrigued. When you say you're a theater-trained actor, what kind of productions have you been involved with?
Well,
or were you hoping to get into, I guess?
No, yeah, for sure. I've done anything I can get my hands on, but majority of the work I've done is probably theater for young audiences.
Okay.
Quite physical in nature, so that came very easily to me. Not to mention I have clown hair. Aside from that, a group of friends that I met in university, we all got together and we had an independent theater company for 12 some odd years. And we created our own theater, which we produced one show a year for like 10 years or something.
Wow.
Nice. And what we specialized in, which is kind of, here we go, we'll relate it back to movies. We specialized in blending theater and film together.
Okay.
We wanted to be like an introduction to theater for people who love movies. They could also love theater. And so we would pre-record a bunch of our show on film, and we would project. We'd have 3 projectors on stage and project backdrops to like give us our environment, and then we would interact with the film bits live on stage during the production. So
nice.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing, and we would specifically choose different genres to write and produce our shows about. So we did like the action genre, fantasy, horror, B-horror movie, Western, spaghetti westerns. So we went through the gamut of different movie genres and put our stories to life on stage. So
that's really cool. My wife actually went to school for theater tech, so she never wanted to be on stage, but she did some of the background stuff, but didn't end up following through with it. Like finished school and did some stuff during school for it, but then very quickly the lifestyle of it, which is constantly in
contract,
motion, constantly like one location to the next. She's like, no, I want to settle and have a family, and maybe you can do that a lot easier when you've been in the business for like 5, 10, 15 years and you've got a name for yourself. But starting off, you are all over the place. So
exactly, yeah.
She has some friends who still do it, and they are still moving quite a bit. But she was just like,
exactly
no,
right.
that's not quite the lifestyle I was hoping for. Loves theater, loves everything about it other than the constant up and go.
So my wife did the same thing. That's where I met my wife. She was in theater tech, and she kind of adjacent moved into theater administration, and so that's what she does now. She's like an executive director at a theater, so very consistent work. You don't have to move around in that way, which is nice. But yeah, it's a different lifestyle for sure.
For sure. Shoot, I'm sorry, I had a question for you and it's totally gone.
No worries.
Oh, like Last of Us. As somebody who's not played the game and it was coming to you new, how did you enjoy it? Because I did play the first game twice, I think, before I started seeing the show, and I've seen the show twice because I watched it by myself and then watched it again with my wife and kid.
Nice.
How?
Yeah, I think, okay, so, I mean, going in, I knew a lot about the game, like the story elements of the game, just because, when you're filming, they tell you, like, hey, this is the scene, what's happening in the game, this is how we're making it into the show.
Sure.
And there was 2 different points that I was doing background work. So I was actually in the first episode, and then I worked on the last episode. So I kind of knew where it began and where it ended, which was kind of interesting.
Okay.
But I think it is there's a reason why it's one of the, best PS games that's released in a long time.
Yeah.
It's got a very good story, and it's story central, right? So I think it adapted well to the screen.
Now, sorry, you're saying you're in the first and the last episode.
I'm not actually. I'm not actually in the last episode, but
oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, the last episode is pretty much just without trying to spoil anything, I think it's just the 2 of them and a whole lot of military men, and I was like, that'd be kind of cool, like get all gillied up and good to go.
Yeah. So, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, it's over a year old now. If there's spoilers, that's on you.
Well, and the game is like a decade old, so
exactly, yeah. So I originally got called as a background in the first episode when they're driving through the town, trying to get out of the little town that they're in. And so I'm just like a bystander running through the streets as zombies are attacking.
Gotcha.
And then the big plane explosion, right? Which was super cool. They had like a huge building's worth of light set up, and they'd yell action. They're like, do not look at the lights. Whatever you do, don't look at the lights. They will blind you. But it lit the street up as bright as day, and we were filming at like 4 a.m. It was very cool to see like that technology and just the vast amount of light that they could just instantly produce. And then on the last episode, I was called for background, and I got suited up all in a Firefly gear. I had weapons, I had everything. Every morning at like 6 a.m, they grease me up and dirty me up and make me look all good. And then we ended up just sitting in a holding room for like 7 days, and they didn't use us for anything. It was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Amazing was the word I was thinking when you were telling me.
Oh man, I played so much Uno, you wouldn't believe. But when they did actually finally call us, here's the spoilers, of course, but the scene where he wakes up and he's in the hospital, he's talking to what's her name and she's like, where's Ellie? What's going on? And in the very background through the window, you can see some guards and some people just like milling around in the back. That's it. That's all that we were there for. And there was like 20 of us. Jeez. And when we actually went there to film it the day of, they were like, hey, you, myself,
sure,
can you come here? You're going to do a stand-in for this guy who's standing right outside the window. So I didn't even get to be in the shot. I just saw the rehearsals with the stand-ins.
Okay, forgive my ignorance. Why? What is the point of that?
So here is why.
Okay.
When you're a big movie star or expensive talent, they want to pay you as little as possible. So they only bring you in when they know exactly what the shot is going to be.
Okay. So they're framing the shot with you, and then they bring him in for the actual shot. Got it.
And so they actually hire stand-in actors who know all the lines, and they go through the whole scene shot for shot with the stand-ins. And then, of course, if there's people there that don't have lines, they can just bring in a background actor and they can just stand there and do whatever, right? So yeah, they shoot the whole scene.
To actually film.
Exactly, yeah. So they shoot the whole scene like 3 or 4 times with the stand-ins, then they call in the actual talent, and one and done it usually, right?
Nice. That's really cool.
Mhm.
Okay, but as a story, how did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the story. It's funny again because I learned a lot about the game because a lot of the background actors I was in holding with for a week were all fans of the game. So they're
Sure.
like, "Oh, I'm so excited. This is the scene. I know exactly what happens in the game." And then they're all like, "Man, season 2 sucks so much. I hated the second game, so I'm not even going to watch the second season."
Okay, so no spoilers for the second game because the second season's not out yet. That seems unfair.
Yeah, exactly.
You
A lot
know
of people
what happens?
loved
I
a lot of
loved
people
the second game.
a lot of people love the second game, think it's a better game, but a lot of people I've heard also put the game down almost immediately, and you know why.
Yeah. Okay.
They didn't even give it a chance.
And I think that's the biggest issue is like you get so angry at like one or two minor aspects. Whatever. No spoilers. And you don't really give it a shot. And it's like, no, the game is still strong. The story is still really strong. The characters are still really strong. But I mean, I guess if that's your limit, you're done. So be it. Now you're a father of one young one, I'm assuming?
Correct. A 4-year-old, yes.
4-year-old? Okay. So I've got my twins are 12 and my youngest is 6. The ending to that show, again, the movie, the game's been out for a decade, the show's been out for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I have no qualms with what Joel did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Because I've talked to some people who are like, he's absolutely the villain. And I'm like, really? I don't see that at all.
I mean, here's the thing. They did a good job in the movie. Again, I don't have the TV show.
Sure.
I don't have the same understanding of the game because I never did play it, but
Yep.
They did a good job in the television show setting up that Joel's not a good man.
Yeah.
Joel is a survivor, and he does whatever he has to do to survive. He happened to fall into a place where he felt he could reconnect with something he felt he lost. And so he, as a survivor, first and foremost, is going to do everything he can to keep that.
Yeah.
So is that the villain of the show? I don't think so. It's his story.
Okay. That's a good way of framing that. I like that. I think he chose the guaranteed happiness versus the possibility of a cure. Right? Because there's no guarantee anything they were going to do was going to work. But it was
100%.
guaranteed going to be a bad outcome for him. So
yes. And I also think they played it well that Ellie was on to him, right?
Oh yeah. And the game does the exact same thing where it's like
100%, yeah.
The game has I feel like the game has a harder cut than the TV show does, where she like asks him the question, he says yes, you cut to her and she's just kind of looking at him like, okay. And it's like it's almost like you can see the gears in her head going, and she decides to believe him, decides to not fight him on it more so than she actually believes him. She's just like,
right,
okay, like I'm going to accept that what you're telling me is quote unquote true without actually, believing you as far as
right.
I don't know. I love that game. I love the relationship between the two of them. I think the TV show did 100%. A great job of it. Obviously, they don't look like the characters, and I think that's one of the stupidest internet qualms of like, Bella Ramsey doesn't look like Ellie, and it's like, of course not. She's a fictional character, and like, of course, Ellie in the game looks like, Elliot Page, I think is their
a once Elliot Page, yes.
Yeah,
but they had to change. They actually changed the model, right?
Well, they changed that a little bit, but also like I'm gonna say are like 37 now. Like they're not a teenager ever. Like it doesn't make any sense for that. But people are like, oh, it should have been Ellen Page, and it's like there's so many reasons why that doesn't work, and you're an idiot. But okay.
Yeah, but I remember hearing that the game actually changed the model because there was like an issue that it looked too much like Ellen Page.
That's super possible. I don't have that information in front of me. I don't remember that, but it's very, very possible. It's not a game I played the day it came out. I played the original way back when, and then I played the remake, which came out like 6 months before the TV show did. So I played it sort of, so it was kind of fresh in my mind. The TV show did a wonderful job of having certain things be a one-for-one representation, like where they could, like literally dialogue in some conversations are like identical, and changing it up where it didn't really matter. And they like, no, this is a movie, this isn't a video game. Like we don't need this to be exactly that. So, anyways, we didn't go
for sure
super down this one rabbit hole, but
hey, we kind of deep dive there, which is fine.
Well, ironically, that was one of the, like, when I stopped doing this show a year ago, that was one of the things that I wanted to deep dive on, because it was
that's funny.
I had two buddies who were, one guy who was actually on the show and one guy who was afraid of the camera but is far more of a cinephile. And he had some strong thoughts on the show, thinking the guy was a villain. And I was like, I want to deep dive that. You have to come on the show. You have to come on the show.
Right.
And then it just never happened and it went away. So it was like this weird, like you kind of just squared, what is that? Like, you tied up a loose knot essentially from like a year ago, ironically. So
there you
like,
go. Yeah.
Let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay. What are you watching, Mongooli?
So I actually just, ironically, somebody in chat mentioned a little while ago, just today, actually, I watched The Abyss for the very first time. Speaking of current events, here's a 35-year-old movie.
I thought I was going old. Holy moly.
Well, there's not a whole lot, like, I mean, there's definitely, we can talk about X-Men and Fallout and some newer things, but this one's like super fresh in my mind. Have you seen The Abyss?
I want to say I've seen The Abyss.
Okay.
But again, like a couple of years after it came out, so
sure.
I don't know if I recall a lot of it.
No, that's totally fair. I won't stick on this one for nearly as long, but I just wanted to say it was one of those ones where James Cameron just brought out they just re-released a couple of James Cameron movies on 4K, including Aliens. I guess they did Titanic first, and then they did Aliens, True Lies, and The Abyss all on the same day. I had never seen. I love Aliens. I love True Lies. I'd never seen The Abyss, so I was like, yeah, I'm all in on that. I love physical media still, so I picked up all three of those, and it's just been sitting in my to watch pile for a while now. And my wife's just like, yeah, I'd like to watch that with you. Not today. No, let's take a rain check. Let's watch something else. Let's do this show. And it's like, I just want to see the movie. I've been wanting to see the movie for like 30 years. So I finally sat down and watched it, and it just started. Like it didn't have an options menu or anything like that.
Oh, nice.
And then after it ended, it went back to the options menu, and there was two versions on the disc, the theatrical and the director's cut. And I was like, oh, I just watched the theatrical. I wonder what the difference is. I looked it up, and like unanimously, people are like, the director's cut is the way to go, and it's the better version, all this stuff. I'm like,
okay.
Well, I don't want to watch it again right now, so I guess the next time I watch it, I'll check out the director's cut. But it's like, oh, I wish I'd known that an hour and a half ago or whatever. Really interesting movie. I really liked it. Lots of, with the exception of Woody Harrelson. No, that's the wrong name. Ed Harris. With the exception of Ed Harris. There's not a big cast of people that you necessarily know the names of, but there's a huge cast of people you're like, oh, that guy, I know that guy. Like you're recognizing
they're in
people,
everything.
But you're like, I have no idea what your name. Like one of them is, if you ever watch Scrubs, the like head of the hospital.
I know who you're talking about, but
exactly,
I don't watch the show.
Exactly. It's like I know that guy, but I don't know who that is. So there's a lot of that going on in the movie where you're like, oh yeah, him. Why do I know him?
That's funny.
So that was really fun. The ending itself, I didn't love, so I'm very curious to see the director's cut to see if they change that or make it make a little bit more sense. I won't ruin the 35-year-old movie. I was super on board with it until basically the last like 35 seconds, and I was like, oh, it didn't ruin the entire experience for me. It was just one of those like, that's not the choice I would have made, but c'est la vie.
Right. Yeah, that happens a lot, right? Like endings can just like really put a bad taste in your mouth, be it movies, TV shows, however, there's been countless times where people just are in uproar over the end of a television series or things like that. It's just like, it is what it is. Like, I'm sure they went through a lot of options and they chose what they thought was best.
That's actually a pretty interesting topic that I'm going to write down for a later time, is like top 5 worst TV show endings.
Yeah,
because I definitely like 3 came to mind as soon as you said that.
Okay. Was Seinfeld in there?
I didn't love the last episode of Seinfeld, but it didn't hurt the show. You know what I mean? Like it was a bad episode, but that's all it was. They're like, I would argue that How I Met Your Mother actually hurts the show itself, right? Like you're watching for 9 seasons or something, And then they just
no, I'm not.
pull the rug out from under you at the last second. And you're like, this sucks. Like,
yeah, I watched one season and I knew that I wasn't going any further in that thing.
That's fair. Gideon says the Mortal Kombat TV series ending was not cool. I remember watching the Mortal Kombat series. I definitely did not see it all the way through to the very end.
I didn't see that. I should maybe look that up.
I'm curious how it ends now, but I'm definitely not going back and like, I'm going to rewatch however many episodes or seasons of this old show.
Yeah.
I did know that they did a How I Met Your Father, but I did not watch it.
Did that even get legs on it? Like, I heard about it, but did it actually go anywhere, or did it...
I have no idea.
Just fizzle out?
I feel like it's got probably 2, maybe 3 seasons, but I definitely not the same as the original. I mean, like, there's a lot of reboots that do that, where they kind of like come back and people get excited for an episode, and then you're like, oh, that's still going?
that 90s show.
Exactly. I never did check that one out, but I just heard that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis are both just like, we're done. We're not coming back ever. And it's like, fair. Good call.
Yeah, to me, How I Met Your Mother was like, there was some talented people invested in that show, and that's what people watched and enjoyed. The show itself and the concept was terrible.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those shows where I seeing like clippets of it on YouTube, like YouTube Shorts and stuff like that. It makes me go like, oh, that's a funny scene. I really like that. But I don't have any desire to go back and watch like a full episode or a full season or anything like that. It's just like, oh, that's a good moment. I like that. Well played.
No, yeah, you got like 2 or 3 really talented actors in there that like just carried that show, even though the whole premise of the show is it's a season long. Let's be honest. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he's not telling these kids a story for 9 years about how he met his mother and going on wild sexual escapades with his, minor children on like, nope, that wasn't your mother. Sorry, I just
that's just a woman I hooked up with for a while.
Exactly, right? Like the premise is just ludicrous.
So you don't know how it ended, right? Uh-oh, did we lose you? Are you there?
Oh no, I heard how it ended. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
It's good.
You froze. I heard how it ended, but I never actually watched it.
No, you're better. You're better for it.
I think I caught the first season, maybe part of the second, and then it was just to get, as you said, snippets of like people thinking these are funny parts, right?
The entire last season took place over one weekend, I want to say. Like, it was all like at the place where Barney and Robin were going to get married. And then the last episode, you finally meet the mother, have time to fall in love with her. But the problem is, because they videotaped the Bob Saget parts with the little kids so far in advance, because obviously the kids would grow up over 9 years.
Yeah.
They were stuck having to do that ending, and the characters had grown so much that it didn't make any sense anymore. So he ends up, like, Barney and Robin get divorced so that he can go after Robin. But, like, Robin and him dated, like, 3 times throughout this show. They were not a good match. There's no, like, it's not a Ross and Rachel thing where you're hoping they get together in the end and finally they do. You're like, what are you doing? This is going to end poorly. We know how this goes. Like, nobody was rooting for this. And you cast one of the most adorable, the actress' name is escaping me, but you cast one of the most adorable actresses to be the actual mother. You fall in love with this character, and then, she dies off screen of cancer and moving on with our lives. And you're just like, F this show. Like, I was so mad.
That's a classic writing yourself into a corner play, 100%. Right? Like, they 100% didn't think this show was going to be such a huge success. It was going to be like a 2-season show. That's what they had like a story arc for. Yeah. And once it took off, and the TV company was like, no, we're renewing this for 9 years. Like, start writing. They were like, okay, here we go. And like, that's it.
Honestly, if it had ended in season 1 or 2 and the ending had been the exact same, not the mother part, because obviously you could cast that part later, but what the kid's reaction is like, Dad, you're obviously in love with Robin. Just go be with Aunt Robin. It's fine with us. We don't mind. At the end of season 1 or 2, you might be cheering for that relationship. But by the end of season 9, you're like, no, please no.
100%. Yeah.
Are you watching X-Men 97 at all? And if not,
Yes,
what is
I'm
wrong with you?
watching it. No, I'm watching it with my 4-year-old son.
Oh, nice.
He's quite into it. He's been playing Marvel Strike Force. I let him do my blitz attacks, so he's like
Let him.
recognizing. Yeah,
Child
I
labor,
let
I
him.
think, is what you're actually agreeing to that on camera. Just be careful.
No, he asks to play it. Actually, I don't blitz, and I wouldn't force anybody to blitz.
I knew I
But
liked you.
he recognizes the characters in the game and now can like see them in the show, and he's like, oh, this is Magneto. Okay, cool. I understand. This is Beast. This is Storm.
Nice.
And like always asking me who's the most powerful and stuff. So it's been a fun experience in that way watching the show. Let alone the show just being quite fun and enjoyable to watch. It's like a breath of fresh air coming from Marvel right now.
Oh, for sure.
So,
are you caught up?
I think I'm one episode behind.
Okay, so the one that just came out yesterday, you're not up to date with.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I don't want to watch too much with him all at once. But
no, that's totally fair, and I don't want to spoil it anyways because it's definitely one of those like you should watch.
Yeah, it's fresher. Yeah,
but wow, the show. I feel like the Mojoverse episode is probably the only misstep where I'm just like I didn't care for that, and then everything else has been just absolute like gold, like so well written.
Yeah. Like I understand the Mojoverse episode, but you're right. It definitely like felt wedged in there.
Yeah.
Compared to like the flow of the rest of the show, that one just seemed like a step back. You know, like it was weird.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you that it didn't stand up to the rest of the show, but you know, 1 out of 9 or whatever is pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for Marvel, that kind of batting average right now is amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
I do like. I'm gonna try and do this without spoilers. Please, nobody get mad at me.
Okay.
The last couple of episodes, they've been fitting in multiple '90s X-Men crossover events. I don't know. Like, do you read comics at all, or?
I don't read a lot of comics, but I know exactly what you're saying.
Fair enough. So they managed to do that in a way where they are merging stories, but the stories make perfect sense. They're completely accessible. They're a little bit sped up. I wouldn't hate it if they had made this like a 14 episode instead of a 10 episode, but whatever. They're doing a really good job of getting you caught up with a lot of these things, which makes me really excited that maybe season 2 or 3, because we know this is going to be a 3-season at least show. They might start going into like the 2000s, the 2010s, like maybe getting a little more caught up. But this most recent episode fit in a storyline that I did not see coming and did it very naturally and organically. And it was just like, oh, that's where we're going. Okay. I like it. Let's see how this pans out. Yeah, it's just they're knocking that out of the park so hard, and I'm absolutely here for it. And it's unfortunate because I don't know if you know, I'm gonna blank on his name. The showrunner, the guy who wrote the show and got it off the ground, not the 94 version, the 97 version, was fired by Disney like the day before or 2 days before the show came out. And we have no idea why, but we know that he wrote season 1 and season 2, or was heavily influenced in it, maybe like the head writer, maybe not like wrote every individual episode. So I have high hopes for season 2 that the quality of that will be just as good as season 1 because it's the same showrunner.
Right.
But then season 3 is kind of we'll see.
Up in the air. Yeah, 100%.
So that could be really unfortunate if they don't bring him back, which I have no idea what he did. I don't want to misspoke and be like, they should bring him back for sure. And then it turns out he's like charged with murder or something stupid. I would really consider they bring him back because like season 1 has been an absolute home run for me. And I want them to nail the landing, which they've been struggling with. Yeah,
it's definitely clear that it's like, this is a comic book first, like source material first play, and then like with no preconceived notions of the MCU really or anything like that has gone wishy-washy in the present time of like MCU and Marvel Disney. It's just like it's its own thing, pulling from like beautiful source material of the original, and they put it together beautifully.
Yeah. What about Fallout?
Fallout, I'm interested in watching. I have yet to start.
Okay.
I have played some Fallout games, so I know more of what's going on in that. Going into it, and my wife was like, "Hey, this Fallout show looks pretty good." I'm like, "Interesting. Okay, yeah, we can watch this."
Nice.
Because usually she's like, "Oh, it's about comic books or video games." She's like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Fair enough. My wife's not opposed to comic book stuff like that. She doesn't love apocalypses and end of the world. So
Right. Okay.
I was able to get her into Last of Us because it is so focused on those two characters. Like, it's definitely much more of a father-daughter relationship story than a zombie apocalypse story.
100%.
I don't know that Fallout is something she's going to go for. So I'd watch that one solo.
Right.
I have played 3, 4 in New Vegas to various amounts. So I've never played the first 2, which were more of a top-down view, from my understanding. But you don't have to. Like, it's one of those things where you will get some Easter eggs and you will understand the world a little bit better. But it's definitely not a prerequisite. Like, you will not be confused by, I bet, anything. Maybe like something for like 5 minutes where you're like, what is going on? Oh, they explained it. Okay, cool. But if you
so are you saying
games, sorry.
No worries. Are you saying it's like it's its own standalone story that happens to be in the Fallout world, not necessarily based directly on one of the games?
Well, that's
much like The Last of Us was.
So The Last of Us is definitely a 1-for-1, or at least very, very close to a 1-for-1 with the game. Whereas Fallout, like all the games, to my understanding, are completely separate entities that take place in the same universe, right? Like, one of them took place in Washington,
Correct.
One of them took place in Boston, one of them takes place, I forget where 4 takes place. This is essentially just another one of those stories where it's like the nuclear apocalypse happened. It's that same world where it's kind of like 50s futuristic tech. This one takes place in California, I want to say, or very close to, if not in California. And yeah, like you will recognize certain things. Like, obviously Vault-Tec is still there. They use stim packs, stuff like that. The armor, the Brotherhood of Steel, stuff like that is all very present. But there's no like, oh, well, to the best of my knowledge, there's no characters that like, oh, that guy's from Fallout 3. They have dog meat, or they have a dog, and at one point somebody refers to him as dog meat. I don't think that dog meat is supposed to be the same character. I think it's just, maybe that's just what they call dogs. I have no idea.
Yeah, or just a nod to the game, yeah.
Exactly. But they definitely have, like, there's multiple times where you see an environment, I'm just like, oh, I've not been here, but I've been here, if that makes sense, right? Like, you go to a super duper mart, I think they call them, something like that. And you're like, this is not the super duper mart I've been to, but I 100% recognize this world. Like, the aesthetics in the environment are so spot on that you feel like you've been there, even though you've never been there. I think they did a phenomenal job with that show, and I think they just knocked it out of the park.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think if you've played the games, it will help. It'll definitely give you a little bit of like, oh, like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, where you're just like, oh, I see that. But not requirement at all. I watched the first episode is broken up into 3 parts. But it's the only one that does that. It just kind of like introduces you to the 3 main characters. And then after that, it just kind of goes in like, no, this is where we're at. So it almost does like that Frasier thing where it's like, here's the name of the character up on screen, like a black screen with just like words on it, or Clerks if you prefer.
Yeah, okay.
And it starts off like that. So I was like, okay, that's how the show's going to be. I watched the first snippet, I guess. The first segment is what I'll go with a friend at like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, this is so cool, but I got to go home. And I almost watched the rest of it when I got home at like 2:30 in the morning. I was like, no, I should probably just go to bed and check this out later. It did, with the exception of that, it did take me maybe 2 episodes to get really invested in the show. But once I was there, I was in. But I would say, like, maybe give it an episode or 2. If the first one you're like, okay, that was cool, but I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think it's only fair to give anything like television series a 2-episode minimum to let them like get you into the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said of being able to, throw you in immediately, obviously, but a lot of good stories don't just throw you right into the fire immediately. So I think you have to allow that time.
Yeah. It's one of
Let
those
them
things
cook. Is that
where,
what they say nowadays? Is that the young kids say? Let them cook.
oh, I have no idea what the young kids say. I'm sure it's not that English if it's a young kid saying it. It's not that English. That was interesting wording. Okay. Well, it goes kind of back because, like, historically, like, I don't think you're as old as I am, but you're definitely not super young. Sorry, I don't mean to insult. Anyways,
Wow, I play younger than I am.
You remember a time when there was TV shows on actual TV and they had pilots, right?
Yes, of course.
And of course, with the pilots, they had to try and get the show off the air. But a lot of times, you'd have a pilot, and things would change drastically from the pilot to the second episode, which is essentially the first episode.
Even the American Office, you notice that.
100%. Mongooli's ancient. Thanks, guys. Super obvious in something like Game of Thrones, where like characters are recast between the pilot and the first episode. In fact, I think they reshot giant chunks of the pilot. Anyways, so you don't really see that as much nowadays, but I still find that, like, even though it's written as a whole as opposed to a first episode, see if it gets off the ground, you still have that, like, the first episode sometimes really grabs you, but sometimes you need to give it that second or third episode just to be like, oh, okay, now I'm invested. I actually care what these characters are doing. Stuff like that. It's a different world, but it's still, my brain hasn't quite caught up yet, where I'm still just like, I should try episode 2 just to make sure.
Yeah, which is kind of funny too, if you think about it, because like the young kids nowadays are all about the TikToks and the immediate gratification. So it's funny that so many programs, like television series, are kind of going opposite of that.
That's fair. You reminded me of something I just read recently. I think it was the Russo brothers who did Civil War and a couple of the movies, as well as Community, stuff like that. They were saying, with the new generation, so much of their content that they explore, watch, whatever. So much, wow, totally blank on English. So much of the content that they take in is done through vertical, that they're saying, like, they wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing a shift where movies start getting filmed vertically as opposed to horizontally. And I'm like, I hope that is not the case.
Yeah, don't say that. Oh,
that's terrifying. But at the same time, like, I get it. Like, my kids don't engage the same way that I do with physical media and with things.
Right.
Apparently.
I hope that's not true, man. That sounds horrible. I hate the vertical.
Oh, I am 100% with you for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's funny though.
I mean, it's fine. No, it's not even, because like I do the doom scrolling on YouTube. I try and stay away from YouTube Shorts, but it happens where you're just kind of like flipping through, and all of a sudden it's a scene from a TV show or a movie or something, and you're like, I know I'm missing significant portions of the screen, right? And it's like, all right, we're just gonna roll with it because it's the way it's on. But it's like the desire to flip my screen, even on a YouTube Short, and be able to see the whole, everything you're watching, just kills me. Who is this gorgeous and talented man in front of the green screen?
Yeah, why am I on a green screen? Why don't you put a backdrop on me, make me look like super cool, like flames or something dancing behind me?
I mean, if you want to talk for 30 seconds, I can actually probably find something pretty better than a green screen.
Yeah, let's do it. I can talk. So, the only movie that I've really watched recently is like, again, they're older movies. My 4-year-old son pretty much dictates everything we watch nowadays. Every Saturday or Sunday evening, we have like a picnic supper where we do like little platters of like cheese and crackers and meats and things, and we go and sit in the living room and we watch a movie so he can like enjoy a movie and eat a supper. And when you do it as a family, it's kind of a fun event. But we've been getting into like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. We're trying to like push him into like some of our favorite movies. He's a really big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, things like that. So he'll like Home Alone. He loves Home Alone. Oh my goodness. So we're like watching all these like classic movies. So I'm like falling desperately more and more behind on the modern releases that it's just like unbearable at this point. I'm like, there's no hope. There's no hope for me right now. I'd have to like just pick and choose. So, oh, there you go. I see what you're doing. I have to pick and choose so carefully because my movie choices are just so endless that I feel like if I don't pick the right one, I'm gonna just be like kicking myself for missing out on something, you know?
Absolutely.
Oh, Jumanji. That's good, Elder. That's good. Jumanji was fun. The original Jumanji. I actually didn't mind the Jumanji remake either. Was it a remake or I don't know. Reboot, I suppose. The first one anyway. The second one was kind of trash.
The irony behind the fact that I'm giving you Mephisto's chair as Gideon is following the channel is just hilarious to me. Thank you, by the way, Gideon. I truly appreciate that. Good to have you on board. It's just hilarious that that happens at the exact same time. Shame.
Shame.
All right, there we go. We got you a way better screen now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Hey, no worries. What I'd love to do is I actually want to get, because I've got a green screen right over there. I just don't use it all that much. Theoretically, if I do this with run, I want to pull that across, find like a 1970s background with like a basement with a couch or something, so we can green screen that, put it behind us, and it almost looks like we're in the same environment. It'll probably look like horrendous, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's got to be better than this, so whatever. Better than just having a blank green screen.
Yeah, the blank green screen's always a little rough, but I mean, your backdrop is nice. Like you have a sweet room set up there, so it's like that looks great. Much. No, thank you.
I got the green screen and the Philips Hue lights installed at the exact same time, and they work 100% against each other. So it's just like, oh, well, I paid more for the Philips Hue, so I should show that off, I guess. So like if somebody follows or something, like the background will start changing colors and whatnot. And it's like, all right, I don't know. Like is that better than having a green screen? I have no idea, but
right, yeah.
We're going with it for now.
I mean, it is what it is. Some people prefer non-green screens. Some people prefer green screen. It's just whatever.
Yeah. What on earth were we talking about?
We were talking about movies and TV, man.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point of this show. Talking about how Run was so easily replaced and we never looked back.
Hey, you showed up. I'm down for it. All right, so another show that I've watched, and this, I mean, I don't know you that well, but it feels like it should be up your alley. Not a show, a movie. Have you heard of the I think it's just called Weird. It's the Weird Al Yankovic story, starring Daniel Radcliffe.
His biopic?
Yeah. Are you familiar
I
with this at all?
want to watch it desperately. Yes, no, I haven't seen it. I want to watch it desperately. I'm a huge fan of Weird Al Yankovic.
That just made sense in my brain. Like I was like,
yeah.
Oh, this will be up CleaningAgent's alley.
The second I heard about the movie, I wanted to watch it, but like it was only released on like a weird platform, I think, and so I never got a chance to out of the gate see it, and then it just kind of got washed to the sidelines of like, oh, I remember this, I want to watch it, but never got to it.
No, that's totally fair. I think I don't remember what series. You're right, absolutely. It was released on one thing. How are we going, Verl? I want to say Peacock, which is one of those like weird services that like nobody has, but so be it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to watch this. And then I found it for, I mean, not cheap, but a decent enough price. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking a chance. I'm going to give it a go. I like Daniel Radcliffe post Harry Potter. Like he's made some really interesting movie choices in what he's been going with. Because I think he's just like, I've got all the money in the world. I'm just going to take the projects that interest me. I don't need to do anything for cash for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think it's a little more than that. I think it's also like people will only recognize me as Harry Potter, so I'm going to do everything in my power to do anything so extremely different. And so like he's constantly been picking up roles like what was the Swiss Army Man or something when he's like a dead body. Like he's purposely choosing roles because again, you're like you said, he's got all the money in the world.
Yeah.
But he's choosing roles that establish him as far out of people's minds as Harry Potter so that he can try to maybe negate that a little bit. Whether it's working or not, I'm not sure if it will ever work, unfortunately. But maybe when like the new Harry Potter comes out, because aren't they making like a TV series or something?
I've heard rumors at best. I don't know anything solid on that one, but it made sense to me as a TV show better than as a movie series anyways. Just have like each season be a book. You're guaranteed 7 seasons. You can actually spend all the time you want with it. It just makes more sense. But
yeah, a lot of stories, especially like novels and things, totally make sense on TV series, and now that's more possible than it ever was, I think, which is nice, and why we're seeing more and more great television happening.
yeah, my wife actually saw that one, Double Gold, Equus on Broadway, where I don't know the story. I didn't watch it, but she went with a couple of friends. I want to say he falls in love with the horse, and I mean like in love with a horse or something like that. Goes full nude on Broadway. I don't know. I can't imagine why my wife wanted to go see it. Okay, so sorry. So
Okay.
now, okay, the other one, I never saw Swiss Army Man, but I just want to touch super quickly on Guns Akimbo. If you've ever seen that one, it is bananas in the best ways.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. I've seen like clips and stuff, but I haven't seen it. But it looks wild.
It is the dumbest thing you'll ever watch, but I guarantee you it's entertaining. Like, if it doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know. Maybe I don't have you pegged as much as I think I do, but I think that
I'm down with that. So, okay, talking about the Weird Al Yankovic story, did you enjoy it?
Okay, so yes, going back. I did enjoy it. I laughed. I watched it with the wife and kids. It is not what I expected, because I knew that it would be a comedy and be silly and whatnot, but it is so incredibly off the rails. Like, it is not... Like, it's a biopic of his story, but it very quickly becomes obvious, like, oh, this is an artist's reimagining of his story. This is not
100%, yeah,
realistic by it. And I mean, like, as soon as you realize that, you're like, of course it isn't. It's Weird Al Yankovic. Like, of course it's not. But it was just one of those, like, oh, this isn't what I thought I was getting into. But once you kind of get on board with it, you're like, okay, let's just go for the ride and see what happens. So, yes, I did enjoy it. My kids really liked it. We got, I have to assume, like 5 to 10 minutes from the end, and the power went out. And we're just like, oh no. So we started up again, got right back to where we were. Power went out again inside of like 30 seconds. I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that to my TV, because I've got a fairly decent TV, and I'm like, I don't...
Right.
Let's just leave things off, and, you know, it's already like 10:30 or something. Like, I guess it's bedtime. And we just haven't gone back to finish what I have to assume is like 5 minutes or less. But not from a not enjoying it perspective, just from a I don't want to destroy my TV, and we just haven't had a chance to go back. So
yeah,
I did like it though.
Where can I find it now? I gotta watch this movie.
I bought it on 4K, so I...
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know what streaming service it's on. I mean, I guess I can actually figure that out pretty quickly. I'm pretty
no,
sure
that's fine. I can do that, but I was just like, if you had it readily at hand, but you're a purchaser, you're a good man.
I am a fan of physical media.
Which is like still a good thing, because like no matter how many streaming services you have, they're constantly adding and removing content. So it's like, oh, I want to watch this. You might not be able to find that movie on any given day on a streaming service, right? Because they're always removing content and adding different stuff. So it's like owning your own content still is valuable.
Well, and there's been times where my wife will sit down and we'll want to go back and watch something or rewatch something, and it's not anywhere. Like, you can't rent it, you can't watch it on any streaming service. And we've got, I think we have Apple, but we're probably getting rid of that in the near future. Prime, Disney, Netflix. I don't think we've got HBO at the moment. We've had it on and off over time. What's up, Wapo? So, like, we've got a decent amount of access, and I'm not opposed to necessarily renting off YouTube, but there's been times where I want to watch a movie and I can't even get it. Like, I can't even rent it. Like, it's just not available anywhere. Whereas, like, I can buy stuff off Amazon for like $7, which is like barely over the price of renting it anyways, and then I own it forever. And there's not gonna be that thing where like, oh, I own it on Apple TV, but as soon as they lose the rights, it goes away, and it doesn't matter that you paid money for it. Like people think they own digital media, and it can disappear anyways. And it's like, that sucks.
100%.
So specifically, there's one movie a while ago, Sing Street. It's a little independent movie from England. Oh, Diamond Dave coming in. Thank you so much. I didn't realize that was still turned on. How was your show, sir? I hope you're doing very well. We are just doing a movie-based podcast with Cleaning Agent. Run 7 ditched us at the last second, so Cleaning Agent stepped up to the plate, and it's actually been a wonderful conversation. So,
well, I'm glad.
Sing Street. Sing Street is a little independent movie from England. You'd recognize certain people in it from things like Game of Thrones and whatnot, but overall, it didn't make super big impact over here. It's about a kid who literally starts up a band in order to fall in love with a girl, or in order to get a girl to fall in love with him, I guess.
Classic. Tale as old as time.
And the music in it is killer. Like, honestly, look up the soundtrack if nothing else. If you're even remotely a fan of like old 80s kind of music, 80s to early 90s kind of stuff. Like, he's listening to his brother's albums and getting inspired by that. So his brother's giving him a crash course in music, and then he's going and recreating it.
Right.
Super fun movie. Great soundtrack. I've literally got songs from the soundtrack on my actual playlist. Cannot say enough good things, but just couldn't find it anywhere. So I was like, you know what? Amazon's got it for like $8. I own it forever now. Moving on. So, Green Tuckin was wondering why you weren't streaming. Are you supposed to be streaming tonight? This isn't one of your normal days, is it?
Green doesn't know what they're talking about. I only stream Tuesdays and Fridays.
Okay, those are the only days I knew that you streamed, and like obviously once in a while you have a pop up or something. But those are the ones I was like,
yeah, once in a while I'll do a pop up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you said you haven't been watching as much. You've been doing the move. You've got a young kid at home. Have you seen anything else, even semi-recently, you want to bring up?
Put you on the spot. Here. The last movie I went to in theaters was Kung Fu Panda 4.
How is that? I've never seen any of the Kung Fu Pandas. Kung
That's
Fu
fair.
Pandas.
I've seen 2 of them now.
Okay.
So we threw Kung Fu Panda on one day because it's Jack Black, and my son loved the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Sure.
And Jack Black obviously is Bowser. He loves Bowser. He loves bad guys more than good guys. My son just loves bad guys because you know what? They have usually better story arcs. Anyway, if they're done right. So we watch Kung Fu Panda, and he doesn't really like it. He's just like, nah, I don't think it's very good.
Okay.
But he always likes going to the movie theater because you get popcorn and treats and whatever, and it's an experience. The only thing playing was Kung Fu Panda 4. He's like, yeah, okay, let's watch it. And then he ended up loving it.
Oh, nice. That's a good end.
Was it a great movie? No.
Sure.
But it was fun for myself and a 4-year-old to watch. You know, Jack Black is always good in my books. As long as he's got a good director and good writer, Jack Black can do no wrong.
Yeah. I was actually actively rooting for I think the song's literally just called Peaches, right? From Super Mario Brothers movie. Because technically that's an original song in a movie.
Yes,
it could have been nominated for an Oscar, in which case he would have had to perform that live at the Oscars. And I was like, please, Oscars. And there's no chance it's going to win. But dear God, just for the entertainment value, just nominate it.
Yeah, so the performance is going to be epic, right? Like, Jack Black is a performer.
Oh, heart and soul. Love that guy. I've heard the Kung Fu Pandas, like I've heard good things about at least 1 and 2, if not all 3 of them. But they just, my kids were never into it. I never pushed it. Like I just never had a reason. So
yeah, I wouldn't say they're the best movies. They're fun. You know, it's just like a entertainment action, you know. Yeah. To me, it's like a huge part of the problem with those movies is like, I don't know. It seems like to me like something that shouldn't be or isn't done anymore, but they still play on it in Kung Fu Panda 4 is like, he's a panda, he's overweight, so he can't do Kung Fu. You know, and I was like, it's such a terrible plot point, and it just, and sure, I mean, I know the whole point of the movie is like a counter against obesity of being like a bad thing or whatever, like body shaming is not good, but it's so played out at this point. I'm just like, why even do it?
Yeah.
So to me, like, that was my major issue with the 2 movies I saw, but it is less represented in the 4th movie. So
okay, fair enough. Yeah, my I've been wanting to take so my twins are like love movies just like their father, and great movie watchers, will go and sit through basically anything.
Nice.
My youngest has been to the movies a couple of times, but is not, it's harder for her to sit for as long.
Right.
Jeez, sorry, Green Tuckin, that shouldn't have happened. What the heck? Had 4 ads, came back for 1 word and 4 more ads. That's not right. Something is wrong with the algorithm on that one. That's not supposed to happen. So we did take her to see the Mario movie, which is blessedly short. I think it's only like an hour and 20 or hour and 30 or something like that. And she really enjoyed that one. But I'm hesitant to take her to something where it's a little bit more engaged or something, right? Like the twins love the MCU. We've seen pretty much everything past a certain point in the theaters with them. Twitch has been doing that today. Oh, okay. So it's not just me. I mean, it still sucks for you guys, but hey, it's two of my favorite Canadians. Yes, absolutely.
Up dog.
Yeah, we went to see. Are you familiar with Miyazaki? I might get the name wrong. Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, depending on how you decide to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the studio.
Okay. It's kind of like, for anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of like Japan's Disney. Is what I'm going to go with for like the 1 second explanation. They recently had one come out called The Boy and the Heron. We watched the trailers for it. It had, I want to say, Christian Bale and a couple other like well-known North American. Well, I guess he's English, but whatever. North American Hollywood actors in it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go check this one out. My kids like the Studio Ghibli. I love the Studio Ghibli. Let's get into it. And I went to see it, and it was all subtitled. And I was just like, we good? And they're just like, yep, no, we're fine. I'm like, okay, cool. And they both said they enjoyed it far more than they thought they were going to. Like, even before the subtitles changed, they were like, no, I was excited to go to the movie theater more so than to see that movie in particular. And I was like,
exactly, yeah.
That would have been good to know before we spent all the money, but sure.
Well, that's the thing is, like, the theater experience is just that. Like, sometimes the movie is almost irrelevant. It's the experience that kind of makes it.
Yeah.
Because it is vastly different than watching a movie at home, right? And I still think there is a need for the movie theater with all these streaming things going on in life now. But yeah, I think that's a big thing for kids, and I think it should be still for a lot of adults. I think it's like it's an event.
Yeah, it's nice to have the big sound, the big screen, a little bit. It's almost nice to not have the control. My wife is very audio, how do I want to word that, sensitive, I guess.
Right.
So if we watch something at home and it gets loud, she's like, can we turn it down, please? And I'm just like, it's supposed to be loud. That is the point of this scene. Like, there was a movie we were watching recently where might have been Oppenheimer, where like it specifically gets loud at parts because you're supposed to feel overwhelmed. That's what's going on in the scene. And she's like, oh, it's getting loud. Can we turn it down? I'm like, but if you're in the movie theater, you don't have that option. Like, you just have to like experience the movie the way they want you to experience the movie. Also, it's a great way to not pick up your phone halfway through a movie and be like, oh, what did I miss? What happened? Like, just enjoy the show. Just sit back and enjoy the show.
That being said, I think more and more nowadays, some movies are made for the big screen, and a lot of movies are not, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I pick and choose what movies I go to the theater to see because of that. Like, there's very specific movies that I'll go to the theater to see, and some that I'm like, that there's no need. Now, that being said, obviously my 4-year-old is going to go watch, 4-year-old movies, so I'm going to go to the theater with those. But
nice. Savage Goku, has a point that there are some awful audio mixing in some movies. You're absolutely correct. I know when Across the Spider-Verse first came out, the opening sequence with the drums, like we saw it opening night, and it was almost impossible to hear what they were actually saying. It was just like, what is going on? They fixed it, so the next time we saw it, it was totally fine. But that first time, you're just like, what is happening? And I know Tenet, there's a couple of scenes where, again, like you struggle to hear what you're saying. And apparently Christopher Nolan has come straight out and said, like, no, that was on purpose. And I'm like, why? Like, why would you make that decision to not hear the dialogue in your movie? That seems like a very poor decision, but okay, you're the artist, you're the auteur, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
I think as far as movie going experience goes, there's obviously like the big mainstays, like you got your end games and stuff like that. Like obviously you want to see that in theaters, but I like that you're starting to see a return of smaller budget movies, things that would have been on streaming the last couple of years that are actually doing fairly well in theaters. They're not making the $1 billion the big ones are, but they don't need to. Like, they don't have the budgets that require
No.
that.
Yeah.
And it's nice
They
to
don't have
have
the
those
marketing to
options.
even get out there. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you've got a small kid. We've both been married or whatever for long enough, but like for new people have like, they want to go on a date night or something like that. They might not want to see Endgame on a date night. They want to go see a romantic comedy or something like that. So I like
for sure. Again, for the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good to see those starting to come back and do a little bit better, but
I agree. But in like recent memory, again, I haven't seen a lot of movies. I would say, and Savage said it, Mad Max is crazy on the big screen. Mad Max Fury Road was like one of the best movies on the big screen I've seen in forever. It's just such a beautifully shot movie and just an amazing action movie that just it was made for the big screen, 100%.
That's one that I missed on the big screen, and I'd be curious to go back and watch it to get the full experience. I have to say, I've only seen it once. I didn't love it as much as everybody else seems to, but I'm curious to go back now that my expectations are maybe a little bit more. Because the thing is, I'm one of the few people who actually likes the Oscars. So when it got nominated for like Best Picture, my brain was just like, like how is this nominated? So I went and saw it. Sorry, I rented it to watch it, and I was just like, how did this make it in? So like my entire brain, the entire time I was watching it, was just so focused on like, why is this an Oscar contender? I couldn't wrap my head around it. So now that it's 8 years later and it doesn't matter whatnot, I'd love to watch it again. I actually own it on I think Blu-ray. I'd love to watch it again and just be like, okay, now I can just sit back and enjoy it for what it is. And maybe like, because the spectacle of it is insane. Like I will completely agree with the graphics and everything like that.
Yeah.
But
do you fall victim to the hype of things, or are you pretty good to be able to like remove yourself from that? I don't know, whatever you call it. I call it a virus.
No, I can definitely fall victim to hype where I will get super excited for something because it is getting buzz or be like I listen to quite a few. I used to listen to more, but I still listen to quite a few movie podcasts and such. So when one of the reviewers that I like is like, this movie's amazing, you're gonna love it, I will walk in expecting to love it. And then if it's like okay or decent, I'll just be like, oh, that sucked, because it did not live up to obviously the expectations, right? So I've tried to step away from that a little bit and pay less attention to what other people think and just kind of walk in blind. But it's hard when somebody you listen to on a weekly basis is ramping something up so hard. Like the next one that I'm expecting to be mildly disappointed by is Godzilla -1. I heard a lot of really good. I'm not a Godzilla fan whatsoever, but I've heard a lot of really good things about that movie from people who don't like Godzilla. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give this one a try. It's taking a long time to come out on streaming slash physical, but I'm looking forward to that one. But there's a real possible chance that it's going to come out and I'm going to go like, cool. Nope, wasn't for me at all.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I try. I'm again like. I've like removed. I used to watch a lot of movies. I used to go to the movie theaters all the time. I used to watch all the trailers, and I've tried to like specifically just remove myself from trailers and previews and reviews, especially on things like I'm looking forward to or think might be good.
Yeah.
Just so that I don't get that overhype or the trailer ruins the movie, like trailers tend to do nowadays. Like.
Yeah.
That being said, if I come across a trailer for a movie, I can pretty well tell you if it's going to be a trash movie or not, because like you can just tell in a lot of movies, they're like, oh, this is the best. They're showing you the best of the best, and it's not great.
Yeah, for sure. Spinning off of that one, I've specifically been avoiding Deadpool 2 trailers. Like I watched the first one just to be like, okay, what are we in for here? And
you mean like, Deadpool and Wolverine, but that's fine.
I do, in fact, mean Deadpool and Wolverine. Saw the trailer and I was like, this is amazing. I am all in. I'm not watching anything else about it until it comes out. Because I don't want you to spoil the best jokes. I don't want to be waiting in the theater like, oh, this is when that scene's about to happen. So I know they've released at least one more, if not two more trailers since the one I saw. And I'm just avoiding them like the plague. And I've not watched certain podcasts that I normally watch or listen to because I know that's what they're going to talk about. I'm just like, nope. No, thank you. I just want to walk into that movie as blind as humanly possible and just let it sweep over me. And if it's bad, so be it. But at least I I gave it the best shot that I could.
Yeah, and I think honestly, people will end up enjoying the movie more if they haven't watched 5 trailers for the movie, because you're going in not knowing what's going to happen, which
Yeah.
can be exciting, and like the jokes will hit you for the first time, and if they're written well and executed, then you'll laugh and enjoy it. But if you've
Yeah.
seen it a dozen times on all the trailers, then it's like, okay, well, I knew that was there. Like, what's the fun? Where's the excitement of it, right?
Yeah. It can sometimes, for me, go both ways though, where like sometimes I'll watch a movie and I'll get like halfway through and be like, I wish I'd seen a trailer and I knew what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, okay, fair.
I have
fair.
no idea what's going on. Like the most recent one with Bradley Cooper called Maestro, I want to say. I got seriously like halfway through the movie and I'm like, what is this about? Like, I understand that we're watching this story about this person. It took me longer than it should have to realize it was a biopic and not just a fictional story. But like, even then I'm like, what? Like, are we literally just meandering through this guy's life? Like, what is going on? And so like maybe a trailer would have been like, oh, okay, I know, at least my brain knows what to walk into, right? Like I understand what's about to happen. But then you've got other movies. Like, have you ever seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Regrettably not. I've heard so many good things.
I would argue that's a movie you don't want to watch a single trailer for. Like, that's one that you want to walk into that one as blind as humanly possible. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I freaking love that movie. And I watched it with a couple of buddies. We didn't really know what we were going on. We heard good things. And that's literally what we went and saw it on. And I'm so glad I had no idea about it, because it just washed over me like layer after layer. It was just like, cool. This is amazing.
Well, I think part of the Everything All at Once was like, it was an underdog movie anyway, right? It was like unknown actors for the most part. Like there's some well-known actors in there, but like it's not like the typical Hollywood movie. So it didn't get the same marketing, and it just kind of like hit people when it came out, and we're like, okay, then the mass word spread about it, which I think is cool.
It's definitely a lower budget, like indie. Well, it's high budget for an indie movie, low budget for a Hollywood movie.
Exactly, yeah.
Updog's asking, what about watching honest trailers before the movie? Never once. I love honest trailers. I've been watching Screen Junkies for years. I've actually been going back through movie fights, if you're familiar with what that is. And been having a great time with that. But honest trailers, I will avoid like the plague until I've seen the movie. Unless it's like I will never watch this movie, and then I might watch the honest trailer just to see it. But other than that, are you familiar with honest trailers or Screen Junkies whatsoever?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I don't watch either one really. I've seen more Screen Junkies than honest trailers, but again, I try to stay away from that stuff until, like you said, after I watch things, if I watch them at all.
Yeah.
So I was doing some videos with blanking right now. Benny Westside.
Okay.
Because he was doing like kind of reviews on some Marvel movies and some like the Loki season 2 and stuff, and he invited me to come and chat with him about those pictures.
Okay.
And I was like in a place in Marvel MCU specifically that I was like, I'm not even interested in watching these things. But because I was going to go and talk about it with Benny Westside, who is just the most handsome, personable, likable man, I was like all in. And I was like super excited to watch the next episode of Loki season 2, because not because the show, but because I would go and talk and have a good time talking about the show. So I was watching like some Screen Junkies and stuff after to see what their what their take and stuff was on stuff after we did our stuff, right? Yeah. See if we're like anywhere in the same ballpark.
Did you end up enjoying the show, or was it literally just because you got to hang out with Benny?
Okay, well, I'll say this. Loki season 2. So you had mentioned you wished X-Men 97 was like 14 episodes because you feel it's a little too short.
Yep.
I feel I'd much rather have that than what most Marvel TV series do, and like they have 10 episodes when it should be 6.
Fair.
And so I felt same as Loki season 1. They could have trimmed the fat for what was actually being told, but season 2 was actually quite good overall. And I mean, maybe part of that's just because of some of the characters in the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty good, and 100%, I enjoyed it so much more because I got to talk about it with Benny Westside. 100%.
That's the thing. I'm in a group chat with Benny. We've communicated more in the last like month and a half than ever before. I had no idea he had a movie show going on or anything. I should definitely reach out to him and be like, hey.
Yeah,
Great
I think
minds.
I think his life got busy and he kind of fell off the wagon a little bit there, because he did Loki
Drugs and
season
alcohol.
2. I did with him, and he did the Echo series, and then a couple of movies as well. And so I was part of most of those with him, which was like super fun. And I was excited for Echo, to be honest.
Okay. And
it was
it was Marvel.
not well executed, unfortunately.
I didn't hate it, but it definitely wasn't good.
I'll tell you this. It wasn't unwatchable.
Yeah.
It was too many episodes for the story that was being given. I like the character, and unfortunately, they didn't really give the character much. I felt there was more character. Echo had more character in the Hawkeye series than Echo had in their own series.
That's totally fair.
Because you understood Echo's whole story arc in like the 2 or 3 episodes they were in Hawkeye, and they didn't really expand on it all that much, if at all, in her own series, which was like so backwards to me. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So I was disappointed that it didn't elevate the character that I felt was a very cool character that they introduced earlier.
Yeah. I think it could have been not a theatrically released movie, but it could have been a really good Disney movie. Like, just give me like an hour and a half, 2 hours of her story, and that probably would have been good enough. That's really all you would have needed. It didn't need, what was it, 6 or 8 episodes. I'm really glad it didn't do it week to week. Like usually I prefer week to week, but that felt like a good one to just be like, no, here's everything. Enjoy, we're done. I think bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio and having him actually be a badass Kingpin again was nice to see after getting his ass kicked by a young woman in Hawkeye.
I mean, was he though?
I don't know. He was kind of ruthless in certain parts. I think the technology they used was really over.
One episode he was.
Which is exactly why it would be good a movie, because then you can cut the other crap and have him just be the badass in the one part.
Sure, okay,
like,
I agree. And don't get me wrong, I love just hearing Kingpin talk.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, and that's fine. But I find Kingpin's very interesting character, and like his way with words and his whatever storytelling, whatever. Maybe that's partly the actor. Let's be honest.
100%.
Amazing actor.
So that great job.
That goes a long way. But I don't mind that Kingpin's not always just curb stomping people. When he curb stomps people, it's a great highlight. It's a fun watch. But it's like villains can be intimidating by doing less, obviously, right? And so I think Kingpin's a good example of that. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just love Vince.
There were certain scenes that I really liked with him. I think the technology that he uses so that she can like he puts something in her eye so that she can see him doing hand motions that he's not doing, because I don't know if Vincent just didn't want to have to learn how to do it or what. But I'm like, if you have that kind of technology, why not just give her subtitles? Like, why do you have to do the hand motions to talk to her? Like, this seems really unnecessary for what it is, but okay.
Yeah, it's an over-elaborate contraption, right? Like, very strange.
Yeah. That said, the caveat, I thought it was very cool how they did it, where people liked her so much and liked her family so much that like basically everybody in the town had learned how to do sign language. Is kind of a cool thing where they're like, yeah, leave nobody behind. You are our friend. I'm going to learn how to do this so I can talk to you, kind of a thing. That said, the actual sign language in the show, because like there's other shows, I want to say Switched at Birth and at least one more. West Wing, duh. Where they will have interpreters and they will do sign language on the air, but it doesn't slow down the pace of the show. It felt like in multiple scenes in Echo, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to do sign language, would really slow down so you could like really focus on the sign language as opposed to having a conversation. So the characters would almost talk like this during a conversation, and it would really hamper the show.
The pace. Yeah,
and you're just like, I get it. I get what you're doing. Good job. Well done. Good to be inclusive.
Okay, I'm going to touch on two things, and then I'm repeating myself because, again, I went over with all this with Benny Westside. Sure, follow Benny Westside. Anyway, you had mentioned this would have been a better movie, and that strikes me as true.
Very important.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Either way, I agree with you, and I feel Disney Marvel, I don't know what it is, but I still feel they are stuck in, they know how to make a formula for a movie. They haven't figured out a formula for television. I feel almost every one of their series is a movie that's cut up into a television series, and they don't know how to pace a television series.
That's fair.
From day one.
There have been television shows of theirs that I've enjoyed, but I would agree with you where, with the exception of maybe WandaVision, almost any one of them could have been better as a short movie or a streaming movie as opposed to what they did.
and I think WandaVision might be the only outlier because they specifically tried to make it into sitcom-y. They were playing with that, right? Like they were playing with that throughout. Until they weren't, and then it turned into a movie.
Fair, yes.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say, this is about Echo. What was it? Oh, have you watched, you mentioned you have Disney Plus, obviously. You're watching all this Marvel trash. Only Murders in the Building?
I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Okay, so you have seen
4 now.
I think they're working on the 4th.
Okay.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. We started watching it with my kids, and it quickly became apparent that this is not appropriate for the ages they were at the time. So they keep bugging us to finish it, and we're like, we did finish it without you. I really liked season 1. I enjoyed season 2 well enough, but when season 3 came out, there was no like, oh my god, we've got to watch this. It was just like, oh dude. Cool. And we moved on.
Watch season 3. Watch season 3.
Well, that's okay, fair enough. I'm not opposed to it. We didn't hate it. We didn't walk away from it on purpose. It's just life gets busy. There's so much going on. You know what actually might have happened? I started streaming. And this takes up so much time between YouTube and streaming and whatnot. It's like 100%. My amount of time that I have to watch TV shows has gone down significantly.
So my whole reason for bringing up Murderers, not that it's not an amazing show and you shouldn't continue watching it, but they did an episode from the perspective of the deaf character.
Oh, yes, I did see that one.
And it was incredibly done.
Yes.
And when I saw Echo, I couldn't help but just want that. Because they went through a whole episode with the perspective of this deaf man. There's very little music or sound, very little dialogue. It was just so well done. And I wanted more of those elements put into Echo so that we understood who Echo is and how they live, Yeah. Because that's like obviously it was a huge factor in the character because everybody learned sign language, which is so unlikely. But
right.
Like real life, like I've
her best friend and her parents, maybe.
Yeah, no, not even that. Like under 50% of parents in the world who have deaf children learn ASL. Under 50%.
I'd heard that stat before, and it just makes me so incredibly sad. Like,
right? So it's like this whole town knows ASL is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But like, whatever. It just seemed like a cop out of like how to make the communication and it just made the whole deafness seem like a less of an important thing to this character to me. So anyway, that's a whole nother rant, but
No, that's totally fair. And kind of going along with that same thing, going back again to the weird kingpin tech, kind of just adds to your point where like that could have been a really interesting way where they have to try and figure out a way to communicate. Instead, there's just this like Deus Ex Machina, like, nah, we're done. Like, because there's no way Kingpin would learn ASL for this girl. There's no chance.
No, and that's
so against character.
That's legit. So like, if anybody's gonna bring in that weird like easy access technology, Kingpin, it makes sense for that character more than anybody.
Sure.
But they had gone the whole series up until that point without it. So it's like, do they really need to introduce it in the last 2 episodes? I don't. Only for her to throw it away immediately. Like, it's just like so weird.
Yeah. Nope, I had something. Oh, sorry, I did want to address Green Tuckian in the chat was asking about Fallout. We did touch on Fallout already. I really enjoyed it. Cleaning Agent hasn't seen it yet. And Twisted Metal is on, I think, Paramount Plus or something that I don't own, so I have not watched that one at all.
That's got, what's her name from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right?
I have no idea. The only character I know that was in it, I want to say, is Falcon, whose name is escaping me. Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
I believe is in it.
Yes.
That's the only one that I know for sure.
Anthony Mackie's in it, and Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the female lead, I believe.
Okay. Interesting.
Can't remember
I'm
her name
not opposed to watching it. I am opposed to getting Paramount Plus.
That's fair. 100%. 100%.
Shoot, there was definitely something I wanted to touch on while we were talking about all of that, and it is gone. Oh, parenting. Funnily enough, my wife and I, even before we met each other, both had books on ASL. I have no reason to learn ASL. I have no family members, friends, anybody who is deaf. I did have a coworker for a little while, but it had nothing to do with him. It was just one of those things where I thought it was interesting. I was like, I have no interest in learning, French or Spanish or something like that, but like that could be an interesting way to have like a quote unquote second language, kind of a cool random skill to have. Met my wife and she had books on it too. I'm like, who do you know? She's like, nobody. I just think it's cool. I'm like, married.
Married, yeah. Marry me.
So like neither one of us are good at it, and it's been a long time for me. But I used to know like very basics, like super basics, whatnot. So yeah, so it's just kind of going along that. And like the statistic you were talking about where like less than 50% of parents learn ASL if they have a deaf child, or it blows me away because I can't imagine not being able to communicate with one of my kids or trying to force them to communicate in a way that is unnatural to them just to make my life easier. I get that there's a lot of shitty parents out there, but it's just one of those things where I'm just like, how, because I want to say it's way higher than 50%. Like I actually want to say it was more like 80, but I'm not going to fight you on that because I don't have it in front of me. But it was one of those statistics that blew my mind where I'm like, I don't get this at all.
And I'm not jumping to like, they're all terrible parents or anything like that. Right?
I will.
Like, life's hard. There's other technologies that are easier to just do and make things easier than learning a whole nother language. I am ignorant. I barely know English, right? So I can't judge. I can't be the first one to judge these parents, but it does seem like a bad number. It does.
It's fair. It's fair to like. I also only know English, but I have to assume if for whatever reason your 4-year-old came down with I'm going to say illness. Please, nobody take this against me. Where he couldn't learn English and only spoke French. My guess is you would probably take some French classes at night or something to like, at very least, get the basics.
Oh, I'm just going to throw that out in my life. It was huge regrets, but yes. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And here's the thing: the stat that I am recalling is probably like they know full ASL, right? Like it's probably something like that. So I'm sure there's partial throughout, right? Like it'd be almost near impossible to not learn some. Yeah. But but it does seem like a pretty sad statistic, unfortunately. But
for sure.
Again, without being in that position, I can't judge too harshly. I'm trying in my old age not to judge as harshly. It's hard. It gets harder as I get older, actually.
Where is the fun in that? All right, so this has been a ton of fun. I want to thank you so immensely for joining me for this. I'm not done just yet, but I do want to just point out that Cleaning Agent was not supposed to be here today.
Yeah.
Did not mean for the clerk's reference on that one, but it just kind of happened. I was supposed to be here with another guest. The guest was unfortunately not feeling well, so I was just going to run solo. Cleaning Agent was like, well, bring me in, coach. I'm ready. And I was like, done. I'll absolutely hang out with Cleaning Agent for an hour or two. And it's been a ton of fun. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm not necessarily signing off just yet, but just wanted to make sure that was out there and let you know how much I appreciate this.
No, I appreciate you having me on and sort of short notice, and I apologize for my lack of watching entertainment.
Oh no, you are more than, you make up for it with personality.
There we go.
So I have a question for you, and I'm going to do this live, which may be a terrible idea, but so be it. Here we are. And audience, by all means, chime in as well. So the way that I was planning on doing this show is week number 1. So I'm going to do this every Thursday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm just going to get some advertisement crap out of the way. I'm going to be broadcasting this on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and today and next week only, I'm doing it on my gaming channel on YouTube, as well as my new movie channel on YouTube. After that, it'll only be on the movie channel on YouTube. So if you want to keep up with this, obviously hit follow here, or you can follow this link to the YouTube channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you go and subscribe over there. That is different from the gaming channel, obviously, as I just explained. So make sure you are following there if you do want to, or following here if you just want to watch on Twitch. That's totally fine as well. We're gonna do this every Thursday. So week 1 and week 3, we're gonna be joined by Run 7, hopefully, fingers crossed, doing basically exactly what I just did with Cleaning Agent, just talking about things we're up to date or things we've been watching recently, maybe a little bit of movie news, and then hopefully we'll have like a main topic we'll spiral into. But if not, it just becomes a good discussion. That's fine too. Week number 2, I'm going to have my brother on the show. We've done a couple of top 5 episodes already with him, and that's kind of what we'll do going forward, is either a tier list or a top 5 list. So that should be a lot of fun. But week 4, I'm kind of not sure what to do. Now, obviously, I'd love to have guests on randomly as Cleaning Agent, maybe Benny Westside or somebody else if they're interested. I've also done my movie trivia game show, which Cleaning Agent has been on before. I would love to continue doing that, but unfortunately, I'm struggling to find people willing to... not rom-com. We're staying away from that one. I'm struggling to find people volunteering to be contestants for that. So what I was wondering about, and this is where Cleaning Agent, I'm kind of looking for your opinion, how you feel about this, is doing throwing trivia at the audience, specifically on that 4th week, but maybe just randomly as the shows go on, so that you kind of have to pay attention throughout the weeks. With a winner every week, but then like a leaderboard culminating in an overall winner at the end of the year. Now I do my anniversary bash because I started my YouTube channel, my Twitch channel, and my birthday all in the same month. So having like one big celebration at the end of the year, maybe even have prizes for people who've done well throughout the year. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. And then if I can get guests for a trivia game show on the 4th week, fantastic. And if not, we'll just kind of do that. But what I'm debating, and I'm trying to struggle with that line between enticing versus off-putting, is doing that, but maybe having it be like, if you want to be involved in the overall leaderboard, if you want to be up for potential prizes in October is when my birthday and the anniversary bash would be, like, it would require being like a subscriber or something like that. Is that, like, I don't generally ask people for money on this channel. I don't like to do that. I do sponsorships every now and then. I'll ask people to play games with me, but I don't usually ask people for money directly. Is that just gross, or is that like, yeah, no, that's a small price to pay to for a year's worth of entertainment and potential prizes at the end of it?
Well, thank you for asking, Mongooli. I'm the wrong person to ask this. Again,
you're the only person here, damn it.
Yeah. No judgment here. I don't think it's like a gross thing. It might be.
I'm definitely not that kind of streamer.
I don't even run ads on my stream. Like, I give zero shits about any monetary value that my stream gives me.
Sure.
So like in that way, I'm like the wrong person to ask, obviously. But that said, I don't feel it's wrong that you're being compensated for putting in this work, because I can attest to the work that you put in being on your game show. Like it's work. Like you have to go through, you have to filter through a lot of questions about movies and different genres and all this. It's a lot of work that you're putting in behind the scenes to make it a fun and entertaining show. So no, the answer is I think it's a fine idea to do that. It might be hard to do. It just might be hard to get traction out of the gate because you're coming into this kind of without an audience built in kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like, I think it'll be work to grow that is all I mean by that. But I don't think it feels gross asking that. I don't think that's gross at all.
No, that's totally fair. I'm hoping, I mean, I'm coming in with some amount of audience. No, we're not recording a video. We're just hanging out.
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
With some amount of audience from Marvel Strike Force, obviously. I'm hoping to grow that audience. Like forgot some of these alerts we're on. Hoping to grow that audience, obviously, by broadcasting to different places. Like right now, we're broadcasting live to like 5 different channels or something like that. So, I mean, Twitch is the only one that seems to have people engaging, but whatever. Is what it is.
Well, you have the Marvel Strike Force base there too, right?
Exactly, like, right? So it's nice to have that base to start off with, and if we can kind of grow from there, then great. I don't know. You got to start somewhere, right? So it's...
Yeah, I think you're right. So again, like to answer the question just simply, I think it's a fine idea, and I hope it grows. And if you're like providing prizes and you're putting in all this work, absolutely. Yeah. It's a spiral. Like people love going to trivia nights. So like, if you can make this like a monthly thing that people are like looking forward to come to, yeah, why wouldn't you pay the $5 admission to get through the door, right? Like, of course.
It's to go back to your point for a second. It's not necessarily something that, like, Twitch is not something that I'm expecting to ever like replace my job. Like I have a pretty decent job. We got government pension. Like I'm doing okay. But I would love to get to the point where I can actually like reimburse myself for the camera, the microphone, stuff like that, right? It's like
100%.
I don't need this to be a living, but just like if I can just not be in the red, that's good enough.
Yeah, even reimbursing yourself if you're giving out prizes, right? Like if all the subs are going towards the prize pool, then it totally makes sense that like, you know, your $5 entry gets you in, and then you have a chance at getting a sweet limited edition Blu-ray Boondock Saints, you know?
I was just thinking cash, but yeah, okay, that's kind of cool too. I don't know how many people even have physical media players at this point.
I know. I was just throwing something out movie related.
Sure.
I think it's a fun idea in general. Oh yeah, we're both Canadian, Windstorm. You know that.
Cool. All right, sir. Well, I greatly appreciate you. He's from Ontario. I've not heard that one before, but it fits for sure.
That's funny.
Blu-ray OMG. Thank you very much for being here. I think it's pushing 11. I think I will call it a night. But I mean, most people here know you already, but I definitely want to give you a huge shout out. Go follow CleaningAgent if you're not already. He's fantastic. He puts on the Marvel Strike Force Theater, which I've been on once and would love to come back to at some point. It was so much fun. Go check that out if you haven't already. I seriously think you should make those as videos and put them on YouTube, because I'm sure people would go back to them. But I understand you have to catch it live or you're not going to catch it at all. But it was just it was so much fun, and I'm sad that it doesn't exist anymore.
It is fun, yeah.
So that's Friday nights generally, correct?
Typically Friday nights, yeah. Although I have once in a while done a Tuesday night for people's schedules. So
beauty. I think you did one for me on Tuesday night, actually. All right, well, thank you very much. We will be logging off and probably rating somebody in the Marvel Strike Force community, and I will get to you at some point. I'm sure I'd love to have you back on if you're willing to come back at some point.
Yeah, anytime Run's not around or flaking on you, just let me know.
Well, maybe that's going to happen quite a lot. We'll see.
Appreciate you, Mongooli.
I appreciate you. It looks like Comrade Red is the only Marvel Strike Forcer streaming at the moment, so we're going to head over to him. But thank you so much, everybody. Again, check out my new YouTube channel. It's Mongooli's Movie Show. If you want to see this kind of stuff live, we're going to do actual videos over there as well, like reactions and stuff like that. But definitely that's where this program is going to live. As well as we'll be here on twitch.tv/The Mongooli Show. So you can hit follow button there if you want to see this show every single Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I technically have a Facebook page this is going out to. I don't know how to get the link to that. I'll figure that one out down the road. I don't use Facebook all that much, but I was like, whatever. It's a huge popular thing. Let's go for it. So thank you again, Cleaning Agent. Thank you all, everybody, for hanging out with me for this first episode or first returning episode of the Mongooli's Movie Show. And we will see you next Thursday. Have a great week, everybody. Bye. All right. I think that's just you and me at this point. That went pretty well.
Yeah, it looks like. Well, I'm glad you're happy.
Okay, fine. It didn't go well. Jesus.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
sounded a lot like that's what you're saying.
Your opinion is all that matters. So if you're happy, I'm happy.